Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the X-Force Global channel. Thank you very much for joining me today on this wonderful Friday. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. Let's dive into the latest Ethereum analysis in terms of the price action via the Elliott wave theory and explore how we can readjust the wave counts from our previous analysis. Again, I must cater to both the bulls and bears, so I must have a neutral approach to help build your own thesis on the bearish or bullish outcome. But again, I do share my probabilities and personal sentiment that is deemed not financial advice. So as we can see, from our previous analysis, we assumed that this could have been the possible low, but we did get that rejection off these highs here, and we came back down because of Bitcoin at that time of period. Now, it did break the low, but that low was very brief, and it came back up. So this is giving me the idea that we could also be creating some kind of 53535 of a leading diagonal variation that's leading us into the beginning of something, but we do have the idea, which I will be sharing in just a moment, that this could also be the end of something. But for now, let's start off with this idea, with the idea that a leading diagonal is bringing us into the idea that this is the beginning of something. Now remember, any contracting variation, whether it is leading or ending diagonal, you always want to work with 53535 for a leading diagonal, which is this, meaning that you need to have 5 waves, 3 waves, 5 waves, 3 waves, and 5 waves respectively. And that only pertains to the leading diagonal, and you can also have that variation of the 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, which is also possible for a leading diagonal. Now, the ending diagonal only pertains in the idea of a 3, 3, 3, 3. So in this idea, the difference between those two is that, of course, hence the ending diagonal, this only works within the end of something, and this is now the beginning of something. So this idea right now, what we have here is a 5, 3, 5, 3, 5 respectively, and that is why we have the idea that this is the beginning of something, whether it is going into a wave A or a wave 1. But since the price action is up so high already at $4,000, this is giving me an idea that this might be the beginning of something of a wave A, B, and then C, which is going to be part of a larger structure of a 1-2 being built. And I think that's why we're going to be continuing up higher. It would be very odd if the bear market just continued to the downside. So if this idea does pertain to the idea of a leading diagonal, again, we have that 53535 being set. Now, what are the other requirements or kind of guidelines that we need to be pertaining to? The idea of the overshoot or undershoot or a truncation is the next idea that we need to be kind of recalibrating. And the idea that it truncated? No, it hasn't truncated. It broke below. And remember, a leading diagonal cannot truncate below or before the price that has terminated for wave 3, meaning that it cannot be anywhere above where wave 3 was. An ending diagonal, however, can truncate. So that is kind of an educational approach on how you can organize the leading diagonal and ending diagonal, where you can't have a truncation for wave 5 of this diagonal. So we did shoot over the wave 3. We didn't necessarily hit the trend line. However, that's not a necessary requirement as long as it does go past the termination of the subwave 3. So we got that. So everything is looking good. We have that contracting look. We have an overall pretty nice look. And I think that the trend line requirements have been pretty much met except this part here. Now wave 5 is shorter than wave 3. That gives it a contracting look, but wave 3 is shorter than wave 1 by a few inches, meaning that according to the original rules and guidelines, this would be deemed invalid. However, according to the new guidelines and rules, wave 1 does not have any wavelength requirements or relationships to other subwaves. So this wave 3 could be shorter or longer against wave 1. So as long as you have the contracting look on the ending part of the leading diagonal or ending diagonal, there is no requirement for this wave 1 to be shorter or longer. Now, it doesn't really matter. So we got that 53535. We don't have a truncation, and we're looking for a possible move to be into a wave A, and now we're looking for a possible wave B being created. Now, how can we create that wave B? Now, that wave B, again, we need some kind of ABC of some sort, or WXY, any kind of corrective pattern for wave B. So if we zoom in and we kind of look at what we have created here, this could be the beginning of a possible wave A. We have a possible 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 going into a possible wave A. So if this is the wave A and we're looking for a wave B, and then C, this could end short. If we can have a long C wave extend into some kind of major Fibonacci zone of that 618 most likely, that will be giving us a pretty relatively nice look for that B wave conclusion. But again, this is going to be relatively short. If we're going to be using a one-on-one extension, I would assume that it ends at the 382. So if we're managing expectations here, I would assume that we're going to do some kind of complex correction, right? If we're looking for an A to 1, a 1-to-1 ratio for the A to the C, rather, we're looking for a possible kind of X wave being possibly built. This would be leading us into a wave W, and then we'd have another three-way move for an ABC into a wave Y. That will complete the wave B, since this can be any corrective pattern. Now, within this X wave, it can also be any corrective pattern. It can be a zigzag family. It can be a normal idealized zigzag. It can also be a double correction kind of type of pattern. It could be anything. It could even be a triangle. But wave Y must be a simple idealized zigzag for that completion of that wave Y. So that's how I would kind of assume for it to play out if it were. This diagonal idea is still trying to be confirmed. So if we're going to be creating some kind of A, B, C, I wouldn't assume that this would end here, because this would be really ugly and it'd be too short for wave B. So we would be essentially looking for is a possible WXY being created to help us give the offset of that B wave look of a larger kind of, in terms of time as well, that we're looking for this B wave to kind of extend in time and size, meaning that we're going to be looking for this, meaning this ABC is going to be completed. Look for some kind of pullback for wave X, and then another ABC for wave B. And then for that Y wave, that will complete this larger three-wave type of move for that corrective pattern. So that's our first scenario. We have this idea kind of being validated at the time. It's at peak validation for this completion for this subwave fifth of that leading diagonal. Now, our second idea is going to be on the idea that we've already completed the overall correction. Due to the fact that we haven't made any major lows, we can still continue on the idea or assume that this is going to be a completed WXY. Now, this doesn't have the best look. However, it is something of an importance, because X wave didn't retrace as high. That can still give us that good look for a possible double zigzag idea. And we're looking for this to be completed for this whole trend, meaning that either this is a wave 3 of a 4 and then of a 1 or a 2, and we're continuing up from here. Now, I like this idea, but since Bitcoin is not giving us a clear direction, I think that this idea is still a little bit far-fetched in terms of this being the continuation. We just need a little bit more cautious. That's why I'm giving these probabilities. So if that's the case, if we do get some kind of impulsive wave to the upside with a wave 3, then I will most likely definitely be more convinced that we're working in some kind of impulsive structure that can lead us into a wave 1 of some sort, have a larger pullback of a wave 2, continue up, and that'll be the continuation of some kind of internal or some kind of continuation for an extension that we just don't know which degree it is in. We're just working with what we have here, as this is the daily analysis. So again, we're working with a 3, another 3, which is going to be completing that overall WXY, and we have completed. And I do like the idea. For this idea, in terms of the evidence provided, is that we almost hit that 101 extension for a WXY. So that's giving me a little bit confidence that this idea does exist as my second type of probability. So again, most of the scenarios here are looking quite nice in terms of the micro time frames. Let's go on to the third scenario. I do believe that the third scenario also does hold its way, but again, it's a little bit difficult. We have to make some internal sacrifices. For example, this B wave here, or actually let's talk about where we're at right now. Instead of utilizing that as this was the larger move, this is going to be that ABC into a wave W. This is going to be that X wave, and then we're looking for another similar type of ABC to the down for wave Y. This, I think, has the best look in terms of having the X wave not retrace as high, being a little bit short in time, and then we can work on making sure that this ABC is going to be relatively similar in terms of the size and time for this ABC. We just don't know how it's going to be playing out. But again, this idea does exist if we do break below these levels, because there is that risk, right? We do have that risk of breaking another low. But again, this idea is the lowest probability for me personally. I'm just still waiting on the sidelines for if this is going going to be breaking. Again, stop losses are going to be below here for a lot of people, so I would expect another breakdown, and that fits into the idea that the C wave is going to be impulsive. So this idea is not bad. I think that we're still looking for something of an WXY. That's going to be giving us a relatively nice look for that. So a lot of these scenarios I think the 3 scenarios that I shared actually all have pretty strong equal weight in terms of probabilities, but I do like the idea that either this is completed or we're working for some kind of corrective move, because the hybrid idea for this wave 3 and this wave B, if we're working for some kind of diagonal, we want this to be in the idea of 3 waves. So if we're working with the 3 waves, our managed expectation is that this diagonal idea is going to have far more weight. If it moves impulsively, all we can do is just remove that diagonal idea and say that this correction has already ended, and that hybrid idea of that 1 or A or that 2 or B is going to be that kind of determining factor on whether this move is going to be the 3 or C. And that is going to be helping us determine whether this is going to be a continuation as an impulse or the continuation as a corrective move. So you see, if you have those 2 hybrid scenarios, ideas overlapping, you're still expecting some kind of overall idea to the upside, which means that you can use this potential opportunity to kind of do a small swing trade, maybe for a long position. Again, not financial advice, because the idea of possibly going down to the lower does exist, but it's not the highest probability for me. So I do believe that we do have some kind of hybrid overlap for a possible move to the upside. If it moves in a 3-way fashion, very simple, work with the diagonal idea. If it works for in an impulse fashion, you can start kind of assuming that maybe we are working to the all-time highs. So that's kind of the overall expectations, I believe, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was helpful. I will give a macro outlook within probably next week or so. So thank you very much. If you're interested in joining the X-Force Global Discord membership, the link is in the description below. Please do not hesitate to contact me. If you're not following me on social media already, at X, formerly known as Twitter, please do follow me at X-Force Global. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.